Now at 10 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, county commissioners are hitting pause on selling the Fannin Monument. Find out what's next.
The measles outbreak grows as officials urge vaccination.
And Union Pacific is closing some railroad crossings in Bloomington, impacting school bus routes.
We've got a lot of sunshine ahead if you're into that kind of stuff. I was hoping for a little rain, but we're not going to get any this week. We've got some dry and very warm weather coming up. We'll be talking about that.
And we had some great baseball and softball action across the crossroads. We'll tell you about tonight's games and provide you with some highlights coming up in sports.
You're watching 25 News now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Shawna Currie.
And I'm Don Brubaker. An El Campo man continues to appeal his life sentence for dealing fentanyl in 2019. 78-year-old Lawrence Harold is appealing to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. Harold claims he had not been made aware of a 6-year probationary term plea bargain offer made by Wharton County prosecutors before the trial got underway. Wharton County authorities say Harold knowingly rejected the proposed plea deal twice. After his trial started in August of 2023, Harold fled. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Then Harold was found and taken to prison the next month. 2 people face charges in Bay City on illegal firearm and drug possession. Bay City police arrested 50-year-old Stacy Monroe and 36-year-old Brian Franklin while they were asleep in a vehicle at a gas station on the 4800 block of Avenue F. Authorities found 2 handguns. Both people are charged with unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon.
Crews will be making road repairs this week, and that means a couple temporary closures for drivers. Today through Thursday, Wagner Way will be closed between Vine Street and Lingo Lane. Then Wednesday through Saturday, Vine Street will be shut down between Main Street and Wagner Way. Businesses and homes in the area will still be accessible, but if you're just passing through, you might want to find a detour to avoid delays. Keep in mind the dates could shift depending on weather and other factors. The Palacios Police Department is bringing back the Are You OK program to help senior citizens. The department will check in on senior citizens weekly every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to be sure they're doing well. If the participant doesn't answer the scheduled phone call, an officer will stop by the residence. To sign up, visit the City of Palacios website or stop by the police department. You can also call the police department if you have any questions at 972-361-3112.
Residents of Goliad are discussing the merits of selling a historical marker in town.
25 News Now reporter Trenton Whiting joins us now with an update on this process. Trenton?
Don, Shawna, thank you. The choice to sell the Fannin Memorial Burial Monument to the Texas Historical Commission is a discussion with multiple sides to it. There are clear signs of wear and tear, cracks in the pavement, and discoloration. Most residents want to see better care for the monument, but they're split on how to accomplish it. Some say the Texas Historical Commission would do a better job of maintenance than the county can. Presidio of La Bahia site manager Scott McMahon vouches for the Historical Commission, saying it helps operations at the museum.
I think that the Historical Commission is definitely capable of taking care of the monument. It makes sense that it would become part of the agency, but part of the complex here with the Presidio and with Fannin. It all is part of the same story.
Residents against the sale want to keep the historical monument with the city, and they want to hear more about this proposed sale and the county's plan to use the money for a sports complex in town before they agree. Now, there are still several town hall meetings scheduled to discuss which direction Goliad will take. Don, Shawna, back to you.
Trent, thank you. And this brings us to our viewer poll tonight. Here's the question. Do you support transferring the Fannin Monument in exchange for a new sports complex? Yes, preserving history and boosting tourism is a good idea. No, the county should retain ownership of the monuments, or I'm undecided and need more information. Just like at 6 o'clock, no, the county should retain ownership has the lead with 66% of our voters. I should mention to you that's 14% lower than what it was at 6 p.m. So keep on voting. We want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part, and we thank you for voting.
Some railroad crossings are closing in Bloomington as Union Pacific expands the track. Union Pacific will close the railroad crossings at Levi Road and Phillips Road to store unused rail cars. Precinct 1 County Commissioner Danny Garcia says this will affect some residents and school bus routes. So county officials are working with Union Pacific to find a solution.
They would cover and help us create an alternate route from Bloomington to Placido mostly for the bus routes and the schools to get through back and forth on a paved road. And so they've agreed to fund that project for us.
That alternate route will be on Key Road, which is currently unpaved. Union Pacific Railroad and TxDOT have agreed to fund the $3.2 million road upgrade. Work is scheduled to start in early fall. Well, not feeling like fall outside, that's for sure.
Back and forth, back and forth.
Yes, we're kind of on a roller coaster ride with our weather.
And there's like a 20-degree difference tomorrow in the forecast between 9 a.m. and noon. Mac, make sense out of all this, please.
Well, I tell you, if I could, I'd be in a different location. I'd be up above everybody. But no, we are continuing this roller coaster temperatures. We were 35 degrees this morning. By tomorrow, we're going to be pushing the upper 80s, and so the heat wave is on. We don't have fire alerts for us, but all of West Texas is under that because their temperatures are going to be well into the upper 90s. We're talking some warm weather, and we'll have all the details coming up in a moment.
Well, a powerful storm south of Dallas brought 90-mile-per-hour winds, tearing roofs off buildings, toppling semis, and flipping an RV at the Texas Motorplex. One person was killed, his family hurt. Nearly 20,000 customers lost power, but crews did quickly restore it. Ellis County's Justice of the Peace says he's never seen winds that strong for that long. Now communities are cleaning up the damage and moving forward.
Texas Doge Committee takes inspiration from Elon Musk's federal operation. The new legislative panel has been tasked to reduce the size and scope of state government. But Democrats say they're not interested in replicating Musk's slash and burn approach. To read this full Texas Tribune article, visit our website, crossroadstoday.com. The number of measles cases identified in outbreaks in West Texas and a nearby county, New Mexico, has jumped to nearly 230.
The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says measles cases have now been reported in at least 12 states. Jen Sullivan reports on the growing concerns from health officials.
Measles cases have now been reported in at least a dozen states. As of Friday, more than 200 have been reported this year, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In the West Texas outbreak, which accounts for the vast majority of cases, 39 have been reported in just 3 days.
The only way to stop an outbreak of measles is to prevent infections.
To prevent infections, health officials say more people need to get the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. Typically, the first dose is given to children ages 12 to 15 months and is 93% effective. The second dose, given to kids between 4 and 6 years old, is about 97% effective, according to the CDC.
The MMR vaccine is one of the most effective vaccines we have against viral illness.
Dr. Wilson says the amount of misinformation surrounding vaccines has led to fewer people getting vaccinated, and that's how an outbreak starts. So far, 2 people have died, likely as a result from the measles, a school-age child in Texas and an adult in New Mexico. Both were unvaccinated.
We should be very alarmed. We haven't seen a death of a child from measles in over a decade in this country.
Measles is highly contagious. The disease causes a rash of red spots, fever, cough, and red watery eyes. It can cause serious illness and even death, especially in young children.
It is the most infectious human virus, more infectious than COVID, more infectious than HIV.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
This week, Texas officials expanded their vaccine guidelines to include infants as young as 6 months in areas where cases are high.
Victoria College is hanging up its centennial banner as it marks a century of higher education. Victoria College first opened on February 4th, 1925. Marketing Communications Director Darren Casimir says the college's mission has always been clear: to improve lives and strengthen communities. After 100 years, he says that vision is still going strong.
Victoria College is excited to be celebrating our 100th anniversary this year, and we've been recently installing new light pole banners around campus as one way to commemorate this milestone.
Casimir says celebration events will be held throughout the year.
A New York restaurant owner is taking Texas to court over a steak. Todd Shapiro, who runs the War Room Tavern in Albany, is suing for $1 million after Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick suggested renaming the New York Strip as the Texas Strip. Shapiro says the rebrand disrespects New York's food heritage and could hurt businesses like his. The steak got its name from Delmonico's in New York City back in the 19th century, and he's not letting Texas claim it without a fight. Interesting fight there. Well, the Alamo has been iconic in San Antonio for centuries, drawing 2.5 million visitors every year.
But just recently, it was discovered the limestone used to build the Alamo in the 1700s came from below another famous tourist attraction in the city.
Heard the word this week that it was a positive match, that the rock used to build the Alamo came out of this portion of the quarry at San Antonio Zoo.
The zoo is constructing a new gorilla habitat set to open later this year. As part of the work, rocks from a quarry at the zoo are being moved.
Some folks that work at the Alamo noticed the construction, said we should go test that rock.
Historical records from the Alamo have indicated a source north of downtown, but it was never specifically confirmed.
We've always known that the quarry had a part in building San Antonio. What we did not know was that direct relationship to the Alamo.
Like the zoo, the Alamo is also under construction, undergoing a $550 million redevelopment and restoration that could use original stone.
The timing could not be better, because just as we begin this work and we are starting to find voids where we need replacement stone, now we have an accurate and authentic source of that stone.
Two San Antonio landmarks now bound together forever.
So I think fate really led us here.
You have these two iconic Texas destinations where people come from all over the world to visit, and all over San Antonio and Texas to visit, and we're both having this incredible reimagination and having impact on tourism in San Antonio and the history and the education of the people that come to visit us.
Pretty neat find there.
Stone cold evidence.
Yes. Well, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10, a Texas middle school student is dead after a classroom altercation turned violent.
Also ahead, new DNA details emerge in the quadruple Idaho murder case.
A middle school student in Central Texas is fatally stabbed by a classmate. The Killeen Independent School District said it started with an altercation between two students. The 14-year-old victim was taken to the hospital where she died. Meanwhile, police say the accused attacker, also a female student, was taken into custody. A homicide investigation is underway. The middle school was placed on lockdown following the stabbing. Once that was lifted, students were bused to a nearby church where parents picked them up.
The high-profile 2022 murders of 4 Idaho college students has captured national attention, and many of those involved in the case are forbidden by a judge's gag order to speak publicly.
Recently unsealed court filings have given an intriguing peek at some of the DNA evidence that was collected at the scene. Laura Aguirre brings us more from a forensics expert who weighs in on what's been found and what it could mean for the man charged for the crimes.
I've thought about this for a long time.
Joseph Morgan is a professor of applied forensics at Jacksonville State University. He's been watching the case of Brian Kohberger closely, the man charged with the murders of 4 Idaho college students in their off-campus house in November of 2022. Morgan is paying close attention to the DNA evidence listed in court filings, like a 3-person mixture of unknown DNA taken from one of the victim's fingernail clippings and bloodstains from unknown male sources. However,
they've got him with this, I think.
Morgan believes DNA taken off a bloody knife sheath is key to the case.
They would have had to have searched this microscopically very, very thoroughly. And when they came up with that hit, I'm sure that they were quite amazed.
Court filings show authorities used investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, to connect that DNA to extended relatives of Brian Kohberger, and that a swab from Kohberger himself was found to be a statistical match.
This is probably where the defense is going to make the most hay in this case. They're going to say that this is not accepted, that it's bad practice, those sorts of things.
He's right. Defense lawyers are challenging the use, accuracy, and legality of the IgG methods used on open source databases, some that don't permit law enforcement use. The crime scene was demolished by the university in 2023.
The authorities there allowed them to tear down this house, which I think is a bad decision.
A judge entered not guilty pleas on Kohberger's behalf, and his trial is set for August. He faces the death penalty if convicted. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
The federal government is no longer accepting orders for free at-home COVID-19 tests. That's according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The agency did not immediately respond to a question asking why ordering has been paused. It's also unclear if the program is shut down permanently. The HHS covidtests.gov website said any orders that were placed before 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday will still be shipped out. At-home tests are still available at grocery stores and pharmacies.
For some women diagnosed with what is called stage 0 breast cancer, a new approach could help them avoid surgery and still stay healthy.
And with more, here is Melissa Adon.
A recent COMET trial suggests that surgery may not be necessary for all women with DCIS, precancerous breast cancer, or stage 0 breast cancer. This nationwide study found that for women with low-risk DCIS, close monitoring could be just as safe as surgery. Instead of going under the knife, these women received hormone therapy and regular mammograms to keep a close eye on things. Some chose surgery later if they needed it. After 2 years, they had similar outcomes, but without the side effects and risks of surgery and radiation. This approach is not for women at higher risk of developing more aggressive breast cancer. But it is a promising alternative for some women. If you have a DCIS, it's worth discussing with your doctor. With this Medical Minute, I'm Melissa Adon.
Well, good evening, everybody. We're looking at 53 degrees right about now. Today, of course, beautiful sunny day if you like that kind of stuff. I'm actually just looking for a little rain somewhere. We managed to get up to 76 today. 35 was the low this morning. That's because we had the dry air here. Temperatures dropped dramatically, and it was rather chilly this morning. But by tomorrow, you're going to start seeing all that Gulf air roll back in, and also that brings us the warming temperatures. We'll have more on that coming up in a moment. Here's a classic example of dry air and humid air. The dry air loses the heat at night. It drops and gets cold. It's kind of like the desert. You think Arizona, they're 110 in the day, but they're chilly in the 50s at night because the dry air loses the heat very rapidly. Well, now the Gulf air is rolling back in. You can see it right here in the green. This is where the humidities are back up to 70, 80%. That's the Gulf air. And this is where what we were in this morning with very low humidity down to 30% and 40%. So as that Gulf air rolls in, you'll feel a little bit more moisture. It'll also be getting a little warmer over the next couple of days. Now, high pressure gave us those gorgeous days that were clear and cool, but now that's moving off to the coast, and as a result, that southeast wind is returning. But I wish I could tell you that we, have some sort of clouds or rain in sight, but it's pretty quiet. In fact, the high pressure is dominating pretty much the entire southeastern United States, as you see right about there. Now, this is a very interesting development here, area of low pressure bringing rain to Southern California. This thing is actually going to cross across the southwest and eventually gets into our area, probably by the weekend. But it's going to be a dry line, so it's really not having much chance of getting us any kind of precipitation. This is the drought map. It comes out every week. It gets updated, and I wanted you to see that here's dry and here's moderately dry. And so kind of we look good here in Victoria as dry, moderately dry, but you really have to think of where the rivers come from. Well, they come up from the hill country, and so that is in an extreme drought right about now. So the hill country, Fredericksburg, all the way down into Medina. Lake Medina is extremely dry. All of that water needs to flow down the rivers and streams. So without any additional precip, we're going to have a problem. Now, over the next few days, we're going to start warming up. At this point in time, we have a fire weather watch, not a red flag warning, because the winds are less than 35 miles an hour. We'll certainly be watching it. But even then, and even for us, even without the advisory, we should be very cautious because everything that was dry for the winter hasn't completely greened up just yet. So 80 tomorrow and then warm on Wednesday and then getting 90 degrees. Like I promised you last week, we were looking at 90 degrees this week, and there it is. And then that little dry line that you saw out in California will come through with a little bit of a north wind, but it's not going to cool us down much at all. 47 tonight's low as opposed to 35 this morning. So obviously a little bit milder because of the Gulf air. And tomorrow we'll get up with lots of sunshine up to about 80 degrees. Look at that, 88 in San Antonio, 92 already in Laredo. In fact, over the next couple of days along the Texas border, 98, 99, could see 100. Could see 100. So we look at the big map and you can see the big dome keeping everything away from our area. We'll watch and wait for that system coming across the southwest. Won't be here until about the weekend, but as you can see, the chances of any real precipitation are pretty slim at this time. Day planner for those of you in Port Lavaca. A gorgeous day tomorrow. Yep, I got you. You're well taken care of. High of about 78 degrees, a nice little southerly wind, no major problems. And gorgeous day in Cuero, getting up to about 82, lots of sun. We stay on the sunny side, a little breezy and quite warm until we get to Friday night. Then we get a little bit of cloud cover before and then a dry northwest wind behind it. This may have a red flag warning. We'll sort of watch and wait to see how it evolves. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Quick response. You take a picture of that and you can put Crossroads Today right on your cell phone. And then Maxwell can give you all the highlights on women's soccer.
That's right, Mac. Women's soccer, softball, baseball, all the highlights here will be happening after we come from the break, and a lot more coming up in sports. All right, good evening, Crossroads. Tonight we had a lot of baseball and softball action here across the Crossroads, and we're going to start first with the Shiner Lady Comanches. They faced the Louise Hornets, and the Lady Comanches took care of business, winning 28-0. Kaylee Bodecker led the way, having a solo shot to help the Comanches score a lot of runs here in this game to beat Louise. And after the game, we chatted with Shiner softball head coach about tonight's game, softball head coach Jason Keller, about tonight's game and what they need to improve going forward.
They did a really good job of adjusting, when we needed to adjust early on and putting the ball in play and making Luis make plays on defense. And anytime we can hit the ball extremely well, we give ourselves a chance to win. We throw strikes, we play really good defense, and that's what they did today. We could probably spend a little bit more time at the plate, being more disciplined, not swinging at pitches that are going to get ourselves out with, as well as base running.
Keller and Lady Comanches look to keep dominating again on the field overall. They get to travel to Schulenburg there this Friday. Now over to some baseball action where the Refugio Bobcats face the Yorktown Wildcats on the road. And Refugio is looking to get back on the win column, and they're not starting the way they want to. 4-6-1 overall. But tonight they got the runs going. They got 4 runs there in the first 3 innings. They would add on, winning the game there 11-1. Refugio, they got the bats there from everywhere, and they're going to be back in action on Wednesday at home versus Skidmore Titan there on Wednesday. Also in high school baseball action, St. Joseph Flyers had their district opener at Riverside Stadium tonight versus Gertrudes Academy. And again, they walked off winner there for St. Joseph Flyers there. It's also future Flyer night there for St. Joseph. They won 3-2. And again, they'll be back on action on Friday. Now from baseball to softball to some soccer action where the Bay City Lady Cats look to win the outright district regular season title tonight versus Hallettsville Lady Brahmas. And the Lady Cats got big production from everywhere and from the team and the bench, because they won 7-1 over Hallettsville. Officially, the Lady Cats officially won the district regular season title, and they're going to wait to see who they face in their next opponent in the playoffs. Now over to some local soccer action. Victoria West played at Memorial Stadium for their last district matchup versus Lamar Consolidated. West battled with Lamar Consolidated, and a tie from this game. Trent Herman got the score there for the men's team, and again, they officially will finish in 3rd place in district. Over to Victoria West women's soccer. They played their last district game as well. They're against Lamar Consolidated. And guess what? They took care of it easily. 10-0 here in this game. Addie Adcock had 4 goals in the game to lead there, the Victoria West Warriors. And same thing. They will be back in action, waiting to see who they play in the playoffs they're going into next week. That's going to do it here in sports. Don and Shawna, back to you.
Max, thank you, and stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10, we'll take a last look at your weather. Plus, a new champion is crowned at the world's biggest dog show.
Tonight, I think we finally nailed it.
We're here to unveil your own team signature.
Turtles were released back into the Gulf over the weekend. Hundreds of people filled the beach on North Padre Island Sunday for what has turned out to be an annual tradition around this time of year. 46 green sea turtles were released back into the ocean, but not before everyone got to take one last look at the eager rehabbed swimmers. The turtles were part of a couple hundred who were cold stunned over the past few winter months and had to be rescued from the frigid water. Volunteers and workers with the Texas Sea Life Center gently placed the turtles into the surf as they now begin their journey back home. So pretty neat little event to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about late fees. A New Jersey woman found an old library book her grandfather borrowed 99 years ago. She decided to return it. Thankfully, she did not have to pay the tab of $18,000 in fines for the book being decades late in returning. Mary Cooper was going through some of her mother's things and found the book Homemade Toys for Girls and Boys, published in August of 1915. It was supposed to be returned 3/31/1926. Unfortunately, her grandfather passed away the next year, and I'm so glad that when she returned the book, they didn't throw the book at her.
Now they're actually putting it on display, kind of, you know, for people to see such, you know, a book from that time and
over
keeping it preserved.
years ago. Oh my God!
You know, books are going to disappear the way we're going with all the technology. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My book is on this little flash drive. It's crazy.
on the e-books
Also
now.
disappearing around here, winter.
Winter is pretty much gone, folks. You can write that off because we're going right into summer as we start pushing into 90-degree temperatures later this week. That's for Thursday, Friday. But slowly warming. Overnight temperatures also warming up because of the Gulf air coming back in. Little front on Friday, but the chances of any rain with that is very slim to none. So basically, I'm looking at 7 to 10 days of more dry weather over the crossroads.
I love how you and Jacob were saying, but it's a dry 90 degrees.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
it's still going to be hot.
Yeah.
Well, Crufts, the world's biggest dog show, was held Sunday in England, and the top dog award went to an Italian Whippet. Musia is 4 years old. Her handler describes her as the sweetest dog. She is the first Italian dog to win the coveted Best in Show prize at the event and the fourth Whippet to win the prize. A fun fact, about 6 times as many dogs compete at Crufts as at the Westminster Dog Show, which is the famed U.S. competition held in New York every year, which, you know, most people are familiar with.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
This is even a bigger show, so really big.
They need better
title to
public
win.
relations because
I think so.
I hadn't heard of that one.
Yeah. Now you have. And you've heard of the Italian Whippet.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
25 News Sunrise at 5 a.m. Jimmy Kimmel Live starts now.